we have seen that what are the foundational texts, what are the basic texts which are used as the beginning point of a philosophical system in India. So we have covered up to this much, and this is something very general, something very basic. Now, let us have some general idea regarding the basic issues which are the focal points for the discussion in Indian philosophy, and we can call them the common features, the common characteristics of the systems of Indian philosophy. And then when we come to different systems, we will see what are the points of difference. As I said, Indian philosophical systems are living philosophies. What it means is that they are followed in day-to-day life. If you look at the ashram or gurukulas in India, they are the centers. The gurukula or ashram are the centers of the systems of philosophies. So if you look at the broadest classification of all the Indian systems into Astika and Nastika category, what is called the orthodox system of Indian philosophies and heterodox systems of Indian philosophy. So Nastika is often translated as heterodox and Astika as orthodox. So look at all the systems of Indian philosophy. There is something which is common across them, is this very fact that they all are living philosophies. And as I said, the centers of their direct observers are different ashramas. And of course, every ashrama has got a lineage of following in the laity, in the society. So if you look at your own family, you will find that a certain philosophy is subscribed, and you may have a guru who is the family guru, or who is the spiritual guide for your family, and the spiritual guide must be coming from any ashrama, right, or any ascetic life. So you look at that very element associated with your family, that you belong to the subscribers of certain philosophy. Your family belongs to certain group, and that group is recognized or identified as a particular system of philosophy. So consider those who are Sikhs. So those who follow Sikh philosophy, there must be a guru, there must be a spiritual guide, and the perspective towards life and whatever surrounds us is directly connected to your guru or the system to which you belong. So there are popular systems, and the popularity is evident in terms of huge number of following. This is one common characteristics of every system of Indian philosophy. So consider the heterodox systems, the Charvaka system. The lifestyle of an ordinary man is rooted in what we call the Charvaka philosophy. The Charvaka philosophy is a materialist philosophy. What it means is that it talks about the reality in terms of only material things. So consider the basic principle behind the scientific belief of the reality. What the sciences say? They say that the whole of reality is constitutive of material elements. And what we call life, or what we call the living objects, they are nothing but a kind of unique organization of material things. So consider our own body. We are living beings. And when you go to any doctor for any medication, or let us say for any operation or for any other treatment, so how the doctor treats your body is taken to be a kind of organization of certain chemical and physical elements, and the doctor prescribes medicine to cure your body by maintaining the required kind of physico-chemical balance in your body. So every medicine, allopathic medicines are some kind of drug, some kind of chemical compositions, and those compositions are supposed to strike a balance, or are supposed to maintain a balance of the chemical activities in our body. And the understanding of being sick, or the understanding of any disease, is that if there is an imbalance in the chemical and physical activities of our body, then we fall sick. And this imbalance is corrected through injecting or through putting some kind of external element in our body in terms of tablets or any injection or any form of drug. This way, the doctors treat. This very human behavior of treating disease in certain ways is based on certain philosophy, certain perspective towards the composition of our body. We are living beings because of a unique composition of our body, and when that composition is lost, we become dead, right? So the Charvaka philosophy in Indian systems is a materialist philosophy which says that there is nothing in the reality which is beyond material. Each and everything is material, and different objects in the reality, be it living or non-living, are nothing but a peculiar, a kind of idiosyncratic, or a kind of unique composition of material elements. They get destroyed when that unique composition is lost. Look at our ordinary behavior, which is not associated with anything else, but having day-to-day living. So we consume food items, we drink water, we take food of different variety, we nourish ourselves. This is a kind of occasional intake, and we breathe. So we are in regular contact with the external environment through breathing, right? So we inhale and consume oxygen, and we exhale the other things which are not required by our body. So this is continuous. Even if when we are sleeping, whether we are aware or not, we are completely in contact with the environment through this very mechanical process that is breathing, right? And what is happening through this inhaling and exhaling? We consume oxygen from the environment, and this consumption is perfectly material consumption. Our body is consuming oxygen, and along with that, water and other things which we take up, they all are necessary for our survival, for our sustenance. And when our nourishment is proper, so we live a healthy life. And when there is some problem in nourishment, in intake of material things, then we accordingly develop certain disease or we fall sick. And when there is such kind of imbalance in our composition, then we go for some medication, and they are specialized medication just to maintain the balance of our body. So this is completely dependent on a materialist philosophy. There is nothing assumed by a doctor inside your body which is not material. Why we are following any philosophy? Just raise this question. Why we are living up to certain philosophical viewpoint? You will get another answer which is again common across all the systems. The basic aspiration of our life is to live a continuously happy life. We don't want pain. We don't want to be in misery. We are looking for a kind of uninterrupted happiness. We want no break in our pleasure. Depending on this very psychological requirement, every system of Indian philosophy says that the ultimate objective of our life is to attain absolute freedom from misery, complete annihilation of dukkha. That becomes another common characteristics of all the systems of Indian philosophy, that they propose the ultimate objective of our life is to attain a state where there is no misery, no dukkha, no pain. And majority of the systems say that it is not just the absence of dukkha which we want, but we want to remain blissful. So the absence of misery is not simply acceptable to some of the systems, but they say that we want to be in a happy state of existence, in a blissful state of existence. And this is again very common feature of the systems of Indian philosophy. Third common feature, if you look at all the systems, there you will find a slight difference where the Charvaka system comes in conflict with the remaining systems of Indian philosophy. The Charvaka system, being a materialist system, naturally enters into a conflict with all other systems which are spiritualists. So, barring the Charvaka philosophy, all other systems of Indian philosophy are recognized as spiritual systems of philosophies. Now, what does it mean? It means that the whole of reality is not just material. And you have just seen that the Charvaka system says that it is all material, nothing beyond material. The other systems of Indian philosophy suggest that there is something spiritual, and spiritual is understood in contrast to what we call material, which means they accept something in the reality which is not just material. And different names are given to that thing which is non-material, which is different from material. Someone would say that it is Chit, consciousness. Someone would say that it is Jiva. Someone would say that it is Atman. The others would say that it is Purusha. So different names are used, different sangya is used to refer to something in the reality which is not material, which is immaterial. And because the systems have a philosophical belief in the existence of something which is not material, they are called spiritual systems of Indian philosophy, as opposed to the Charvaka philosophy. So this also becomes largely a common character of the systems of Indian philosophy. So those systems which accept that there is something non-material in the reality, they have another common thing in their suggestion, that we are not satisfied with simply the materialistic understanding of our existence. We are not satisfied with merely material satisfaction. Consider, for example, if we have enough of food, nourishing food, if we have enough of cloth, if we have a decent accommodation, and we have decent transportation facility and all the opportunities of recreational activities, outdoor activities, indoor activities. Consider all the things which we require for our convenient living. If we have all these, are we satisfied with them only? Or we may be looking for something else? You are undergoing this training, you are looking for a job, you are looking for a salary, good amount of money, and you are looking for all these because you want to have adequate physical facilities for your convenient living, isn't it? Consider if you have all these, if you have enough of money, if you have good house and all the physical things which you look for, would that be enough to give meaning to your life, complete meaning to your life? At least those who already possess whatever you are looking for, just ask them whether they are satisfied. You can easily see that, yes, that is not the case. The spiritual systems of Indian philosophy propose that we are not simply satisfied with the material possessions. We need to look for something which is beyond all these. This is again something which is common we find in the spiritual systems. So the spiritual systems of Indian philosophy say that whatever situation you are in, it is because of your karma. And this is something which is common across all the systems of Indian philosophy. It is all karma, including the Charvaka system. The materialists would not say that karma doesn't matter. But of course, their notion of karma is confined to only one life, only one birth. So they would say that you are just happen to be born in a particular family. And just imagine a situation, your parents are together and they were married. Just imagine a situation that they were not married to each other, but they were married to different individuals, not between themselves. Then do you think that you would have been born if your mother was married to someone, not your father, or your father was married to someone? Then the very understanding that your mother or your father, with reference to the individuals whom you are associated, would have been pointless. And therefore, it can one can easily say that, okay, then you would not have been you would not have been in the world at all. But this is a fact that you are there in the world, right? You are born with that parent. Now, one thing is that you can consider it is just an accident. By chance, you are born and then you are grown like that and you have become some kind of individual. The Indian systems of philosophy, excluding Charvaka, would say that this is not a by chance occurrence. The Charvaka would say that, yes, it is just a kind of any happening like that. So there is no grand design in the reality. That is the Charvaka belief, the materialist. But the spiritualist suggests that it is not a by chance occurrence. You are born in that family, you are in a particular situation. It is because of your karma of your previous life. And if you go on living an ordinary life, then there will be another life after this. So the concept of karma and the notion of rebirth are very closely linked. And most of the systems of Indian philosophy accept that there is a law of karma, and the law of karma is not only to understand the individual life, but the whole of universe as such. The whole of universe is orderly, and this order is with some purpose. And if you look at the Vedic literature, the order of this world is called Rita. Rita. So Rit is the cosmic order. That is the Vedic conception. So the cosmos is orderly, and the order in the cosmos is called Rita, and the order in individual life is called morality. That's the way we understand. Whatever situation we are in, it is because of certain order, certain design, and in this design, what is unique is our own role. Whatever we are doing, that is going to produce a result. It will not be a fruitless activity. Whatever we are doing, good or bad, doesn't matter. Whatever we are doing, it will lead to certain result, certainly. So whatever you are today, it is because of your karma in the previous life. And also, once you are born in this life, so whatever karma you have performed, starting from your birth till date, it has all contributed to the kind of being you are today. And you will feel that, yes, I'm not satisfied with whatever I am today. I want to be something. I want to be in a different state. And then whatever you are looking for, you need to consider the kind of karma which is essential to lead to that situation. So the systems of Indian philosophy very clearly say that you are the result of karma, and whatever you are looking for, that will be connected with your activities. Finally, what we are looking for in our life, we have some short-term goals like getting a degree, then getting job, and then having a spouse and house, etc. Right? These are short-term goals. Excluding the Charvaka system, remember the Charvaka system always becomes an exception to most of the common features of Indian philosophy, right? So that's why I always qualify excluding the Charvaka system or barring the Charvaka system, because the Charvaka system is unique. It's a materialist system, and you will learn what are the basic things there again. So excluding the Charvaka system, the systems of Indian philosophy propose an ultimate objective of human life, and they give different names to it. Someone would say that it is mukti or moksha. Someone would say that it is nirvana. Someone would say that it is swarga. Others would say that it is apavarga. Someone would say it is kaivalya, right? So different names are given to the ultimate goal of human life. And we will learn all these things when we come to different systems. So that is again something which is common across all the systems. Now we are in misery, we are in trouble, that we realize. There must be some reason for that, right? Why we are in misery, why we are in trouble. So all the systems of Indian philosophy again say that the reason behind all our misery, all our dukkha is nothing but our own ignorance, ajnana, ajnana, ignorance. We don't have jnana, and that is why we are in misery, right? तो आप इस क्लास में कुछ पढ़ रहे हो, क्या पर्पज है? आप सीखना चाहते हो, क्या सीखना चाहते हो? जो आप नहीं जानते हो वही तो सीखना चाहते हो. Whatever you know, it is little, and little knowledge is dangerous. So you want to have more and more, right? So all the systems of Indian philosophy propose that the root cause of our misery, the root cause of our dukkha is ignorance. What is it of which we are ignorant? They clearly say that we are ignorant regarding our own nature and regarding the nature of everything which surrounds us. And we will see a lot more things are there, so no need to bring in everything. Just keep this fact in your mind that the Indian systems of philosophy say that the basic reason for our misery, for our dukkha is our ignorance, and we are ignorant of what we are and what surrounds us. This is the problem. What is the solution? What is the objective? The objective is to remove our ignorance and gain knowledge. So how to remove our ignorance? How to gain knowledge? A mechanism is also suggested, and that mechanism is also a common character of all the systems of Indian philosophy. The mechanism is yoga. There is no other way to remove dukkha from our life if we want to have knowledge, if we want to have correct understanding, if we want to have a favorable situation of our existence. We have to gain knowledge. And what is the method of gaining knowledge? We have to purify our mind so that our mind becomes a promising instrument to gain knowledge. With a corrupt mind, we cannot get knowledge. Just imagine if we are disturbed, if our mind is too much into calculation, then we don't understand things properly. The mechanism is to purify your mind, to purify your awareness. How to do that? Only through yoga and meditation. So all the systems of Indian philosophy in one voice say that it is only through yoga and meditation we can purify ourselves. And this purification is of both kind, mental as well as physical. So don't think that yoga is only for body or it is only for mind. We are basically body and mind both. And then the Indian systems, excluding again Charvaka, would say that we are not mind or body only. We are something which is different from mind and body and all the sense organs which we have. And what is that? We will come to understand by going through different systems.